There's a strange kind of gravity around Capricorns. Not the loud, flashy, "Look at me," kind, but something subtler, stronger. You've seen it before, maybe at a party, a workplace, or just walking down the street. A Capricorn enters, and suddenly, everyone's aware of them. No dramatic entrance, no attention-seeking behavior, just presence. It's the way they carry themselves. Shoulders back, eyes focused, expression calm but alert. You can tell they're sizing up the room. Not judging, not competing, just calculating, processing. They don't need to say a word. That silence, it speaks volumes. People feel it. There's a kind of power in the way Capricorns exist. Like they know something you don't. Like they've already made the plan, run the numbers, and figured out their next 10 moves while you're still deciding what to order for lunch. And that energy, cool, in control, yet slightly unreadable, makes people watch, makes them wonder. Is it charm, confidence? Maybe. But it's deeper than that. It's self-possession. Capricorns have an internal compass that rarely wavers. They don't seek validation because they trust their own judgment. And in a world that thrives on noise and comparison, that kind of inner certainty is magnetic. Here's the irony. They're not even trying to get attention. They just do. Because people are naturally drawn to what feels steady, what feels real. And that's what Capricorn brings. Substance, not show. But let's dig into the real roots of this attention magnetism. Because there's more to it than just presence. 2 core traits, deeply Capricorn at the core, play a huge role in why they stand out without effort. Let's start with reason number 1. Capricorn's grounded confidence. It's not arrogance. It's not performance. It's quiet, powerful self-belief. The kind that doesn't need an audience to validate it. Capricorns aren't walking around trying to prove they're special. They already know they are. And that's what makes them impossible to ignore. You ever been in a room where someone walks in and without saying a word, you just feel their presence? That's Capricorn. They don't shout. They don't show off. But somehow everyone takes note. Their confidence isn't showy. It's rooted. It comes from years of building themselves brick by brick, goal after goal, failure after failure, lesson after lesson. Capricorns trust in what they've earned. And that kind of assurance hits different. There's something calming about it too. When everything feels chaotic, the Capricorn energy says, "I've got this." And even if they don't say it out loud, people sense it. Colleagues lean in when they speak. Friends trust their judgment. Strangers feel oddly safe in their presence. Because that confidence, that composure, that calm, it's rare and it's magnetic. It's also not something they put on for show. It's not a mask. In fact, Capricorns hate pretending to be anything they're not. Their confidence is real, earned through consistency and character. That's why it holds weight. That's why it doesn't fade when things get tough. It's the kind of self-belief that doesn't crack under pressure. And when people see that, they can't help but be drawn in. Now here's the twist. Confidence alone doesn't fully explain why Capricorns get so much attention. Because there's something else, something harder to define. It's not just what Capricorns do, it's what they don't do. And that brings us to reason number 2, the mysterious aura. Let's be honest, everyone loves a bit of mystery. We're wired to be curious, to chase what we don't understand. And Capricorns, they are mystery personified. You could know a Capricorn for years and still not feel like you've really cracked their code. Not because they're hiding something, but because they only reveal what they choose to. And when they choose to, they don't overshare. They don't fill silence with filler. They speak with purpose. And when they're quiet, it's not awkward. It's intentional. They're observing, analyzing, reading the room. And that stillness, it makes people wonder. What are they thinking? What's their story? What haven't they told me yet? This mysterious aura isn't about being cold or distant. In fact, Capricorns can be incredibly warm and deeply loyal once you're in their inner circle. But getting to that point, it takes time, effort, patience. And that's part of what makes their energy so captivating. People want to earn their trust. They want to get closer because Capricorns don't hand out access easily. When someone is selective with their energy, it makes their presence more valuable. Think about how rare that is. In a world where oversharing is everywhere, where everyone's broadcasting every thought and feeling online, Capricorn is the quiet contrast. They don't need to post every win. They don't need applause. They're too busy building, too busy doing. And ironically, that focus on substance over spotlight makes people watch them even more closely. It's not just strangers either. Even in close relationships, Capricorns maintain a level of internal privacy. You can feel close to them, share deep conversations, and still sense that there's more underneath, more layers, more history, more ambition. That sense of, there's more I haven't seen yet, keeps people coming back, leaning in, wanting to understand. There's also a kind of intensity behind their eyes, like they're always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, like they're not just present, they're planning. And that depth, it's intriguing. It makes you want to stay in their orbit just to see what they'll do next. They become the unsolved puzzle that never loses its edge. Capricorns also know the power of silence. They don't rush to fill it. They're comfortable in it. And in a conversation, that can be disarming in the best way. You start to listen more, to measure your own words, because you know when they do finally respond, it's going to mean something. And this mystery isn't just psychological, it's physical too. Capricorns often have a serious resting face. They're not constantly smiling or performing emotion. That unreadable expression adds to their mystique. You can't quite pin down what they're feeling, so you watch more closely. You want to understand them. That's the magic of Capricorn. They're the calm in the storm, the quiet strategist in a room full of noise, the one who doesn't try to impress and still impresses everyone. They don't need to dominate the spotlight because their energy naturally draws people in. So we've looked at 2 powerful reasons why Capricorns command attention without even trying. Number 1, their grounded, earned confidence. And number 2, the deep and mysterious presence they carry wherever they go. But that's just the beginning. Because attention isn't just about what's visible on the outside. It's also about what people sense underneath. And Capricorn's inner fire, their ambition and instinct to lead, that's a whole other reason people can't help but watch what they do next. So far, we've uncovered 2 undeniable truths about Capricorns. Number 1, their grounded confidence makes them impossible to ignore. And number 2, their mysterious aura keeps people curious and wanting more. But what really makes Capricorn energy stand out, what makes them not just noticed but watched, goes deeper than personality. It's how they move. It's how they work. It's the fire beneath the surface that keeps them constantly building, climbing, pushing. That brings us to reason number 3. Capricorn's ambition doesn't hide. It radiates. Let's be clear. Ambition looks different on a Capricorn. It's not loud. It's not desperate. It's not about stepping over people to get to the top. It's strategic. It's steady. It's undeniable. You can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voice, feel it when they talk about what they're working on, even if they don't give you all the details. Capricorns are wired to build. They can't help it. They don't do things halfway. Whether it's their career, a creative project, or something as personal as planning a future home or relationship, they're thinking long term. And people pick up on that. They notice that Capricorn isn't just existing. They're moving forward, always. That kind of drive is captivating. Because ambition, when it's real, when it's lived out every day with discipline and focus, becomes energy. It moves through the air. It pulls people in. You feel more awake when you're around someone with that kind of purpose. You start to question your own path. Am I doing enough? That's what Capricorn's presence does. It quietly challenges you to level up. There's a sense of inevitability around them too. Like no matter what obstacles pop up, they're going to get where they're going. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. Because Capricorns don't quit. They adjust. They rework the plan. They take the hit, regroup, and try again. Stronger. Watching that kind of resilience in motion is powerful, inspiring, and yes, attention-grabbing. Even when they're not talking about their goals, their habits give them away. The early mornings, the quiet sacrifices, the time they spend alone, focused, while everyone else is scrolling or coasting. It shows, and it earns respect. People start to associate Capricorn with reliability, excellence, and success. Not because they boast, but because they deliver. And when you combine that unshakable ambition with their mysterious, composed nature, you don't just see them, you remember them. They leave an imprint. But here's the twist. Capricorns don't push for the spotlight. In fact, they often prefer to work behind the scenes. They're not chasing recognition, they're chasing results. Which brings us to reason number 4. Capricorns lead, even when they're not trying to. This is one of the most fascinating things about Capricorn energy. They can walk into a situation with zero intention of taking charge and still end up in charge. Not because they're loud, not because they dominate, but because people trust them, people look to them. They have that presence that says, "I've got this," even when they haven't said a word. Capricorn leadership is quiet, but firm. It's rooted in logic, responsibility, and big picture thinking. They don't just react, they plan. They consider consequences. They look out for the whole. And that kind of leadership is rare. People recognize it, even unconsciously. In a group setting, Capricorn becomes the one people defer to, the one who organizes, who keeps things on track, who makes sure things actually get done. It's not about ego, it's about results. Capricorn steps up because they can't stand watching things fall apart. They take responsibility even when it's not their job, because they care about outcomes. And when you show that kind of dedication, that kind of consistency, you earn more than attention. You earn trust. Think about any strong team, family, or relationship you've seen. Chances are there's a Capricorn or someone with strong Capricorn energy quietly holding the center, managing chaos, keeping it all moving forward. And while people may not always say it, they feel it. That person becomes the anchor, the go-to, the one you call when things go sideways. And even beyond formal leadership roles, Capricorns set a tone. Their work ethic inspires. Their standards raise the bar. Just by being who they are, they challenge everyone around them to operate better. That influence? It doesn't go unnoticed. It also means they're often respected by people who don't even know them that well. Maybe it's a co-worker who's quietly watched their consistency, or a classmate who notices how focused they always are, or a friend of a friend who keeps hearing their name in positive ways. Capricorn leaves an impression, and not because they demand it, but because they earn it. And the irony? They're not doing any of this to be admired. They're just doing what feels natural, taking care of business, holding the vision, staying committed. But the effect it has on the people around them, it's powerful. It draws attention, respect, and sometimes even envy from those who can't quite understand how someone can lead so effortlessly. Capricorn doesn't need to announce, "I'm in charge." People just know. It's in the way they speak, the way they listen, the way they act when things get hard. And it's not a role they crave, but it's one they embody, which only makes their leadership presence even more authentic. When you put number 3, that relentless, inspiring ambition, together with number 4, that quiet, unshakable leadership, you begin to see why Capricorns don't just get attention. They command it, without trying, without pushing, just by being exactly who they are. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because while confidence, mystery, ambition, and leadership are all incredibly powerful traits, they're still just the surface. There are other layers, more subtle, but just as attention-grabbing. So let's keep going. Because when we look deeper into how Capricorns present themselves, how they show up in the world physically and emotionally, we start to uncover even more reasons why all eyes tend to follow them wherever they go. So far, we've uncovered 4 major reasons why Capricorns seem to draw attention without even trying. Number 1, their grounded confidence. Number 2, their mysterious aura. Number 3, their raw ambition. And number 4, their natural, unforced leadership. These qualities alone already paint the picture of someone others naturally gravitate toward. But we're just scratching the surface. Let's go deeper into the way they present themselves. Not just in how they act or think, but in how they show up, quite literally, in the world. This brings us to reason number 5. Capricorn's style is never random. It's always with purpose. Here's the thing. Capricorns don't just throw something on. Their style might not always be flashy or bold, but it always says something. And most of the time, what it says is, I'm in control. Whether they're in a crisp blazer, a minimalistic outfit, or something elegant and understated, there's a thoughtfulness behind the way they put themselves together. They dress not just for the moment, but for the message. Capricorn's fashion sense is like everything else about them: intentional, strategic, and deeply personal. It's not about impressing people for the sake of attention. It's about self-respect. They dress to reflect who they are, where they're going, and how seriously they take themselves. That's what turns heads. Even when a Capricorn isn't dressed up, they carry themselves in a way that feels put together. There's this air of polish, even in simplicity. It might be the way they choose their accessories, or how their clothes always seem to fit just right. They pay attention to details. You won't catch them wearing something sloppy unless there's a very specific, deliberate reason. And more than that, their aesthetic grows with them. Capricorns evolve, and their look evolves too, always aligning with their current season of life. As they level up professionally or personally, so does their appearance. You'll rarely see a Capricorn get stuck in the past. They keep it moving subtly, but steadily upgrading themselves along the way. But what makes this also magnetic is the quiet confidence behind it. They don't need validation for their style. They're not trying to go viral. It's not performative, it's expressive. They know exactly what they're doing. And that kind of authenticity, that sense of knowing who you are, it's rare and it shows. People pick up on it, they admire it, and often they try to emulate it. Capricorn becomes a quiet trendsetter. Not necessarily because they're trying to start something, but because what they choose feels right and others take notice. Still, style is only skin deep. What really keeps people glued to Capricorns isn't just the way they look, it's the way they handle themselves, especially when things get real. And that brings us to reason number 6. Capricorns have a level of emotional control that commands respect. Let's be real. Life is messy. People get overwhelmed. They panic. They explode. They spiral. But Capricorns, they pause. They breathe. They process. And they stay grounded. While the world may be losing its mind, Capricorn is in the corner calmly deciding the next best move. That doesn't mean they don't feel things. Capricorns have deep emotions, sometimes more than they show, but they've learned how to hold those feelings without letting them take the wheel. They're not reactive, they're responsive, and that makes people feel safe around them. Imagine being in a crisis and looking around the room. The Capricorn will be the one with their feet on the ground, looking everyone in the eye, already forming a plan. There's a quiet power in that. They don't need to raise their voice or control the room. They stabilize it just by staying calm. This kind of emotional steadiness doesn't come naturally to everyone, but it's something Capricorns have often had to develop early in life. Many of them grow up with responsibilities or expectations that force them to mature fast. They learn how to manage stress, how to compartmentalize, how to keep moving even when things hurt. It's not always easy, but it builds a kind of strength that people can't help but admire. When everyone else is spiraling, a Capricorn's calm becomes a beacon. It draws people in. Whether it's a romantic partner who craves that emotional anchor, or a friend who needs someone reliable to talk to, Capricorns become the person people turn to. Not because they fix everything, but because they don't fall apart. And let's not ignore how rare that is. We live in a time when emotions run high and boundaries get blurred. Capricorns remind people what it looks like to stay solid, to have dignity, to not let every little thing shake you. That emotional control becomes a form of elegance, a kind of inner beauty that commands deep respect. It also feeds directly into how they succeed. Because while others get distracted or thrown off by criticism, failure, or drama, Capricorns keep their eyes on the prize. Their emotional discipline becomes fuel. It allows them to keep showing up even when it's hard, to keep speaking clearly even when the room is loud, to keep thinking even when others are just reacting. That ability to stay centered gives them a kind of edge that people don't always understand, but they definitely notice. It makes Capricorns seem unshakable. And even if someone doesn't fully understand why they're watching, they are watching. Now think about that combination. Style that's rooted in identity and intention. Emotional control that grounds the room and makes people feel safe. These aren't traits that jump out in 5 seconds, but they last, they linger, they leave impressions. Because the truth is, Capricorn attention isn't just about first impressions, it's about what happens after. Once people notice them, they keep noticing them. They don't fade into the background. They become reference points. What would they do? What did they say? How did they handle that? Capricorn becomes the quiet standard that others try to measure up to. But there's more. Because as much as Capricorns impress with their control and their style, they've also got another layer, something that cuts through the noise in a totally different way, something sharp, unexpected, and just a little dangerous. Let's talk about their wit and the way they set the standard without even realizing it. So far, we've uncovered 6 reasons why Capricorns grab attention without even trying. Their confidence, mystery, ambition, leadership, style, and emotional control. That's already a lot to admire. But what catches people off guard and holds their attention even tighter is when they see the edge behind Capricorn's calm, the spark, the bite. That brings us to reason number 7. Capricorn's wit is sharp, and when it lands, people remember. Capricorns aren't loud talkers. They don't fill silence just to be heard. But when they do speak, especially when it's something clever, sarcastic, or brutally honest, you feel it. Their sense of humor has layers. It's not goofy or silly, it's smart, wry, observant, the kind of humor that makes you pause and think, wow, that was savage, but also kind of genius. And what makes it so captivating is the timing. Capricorns are masters of restraint. They'll sit back quietly, letting the room buzz, and then, out of nowhere, they'll drop a one-liner that cuts through the noise like a scalpel. It's rarely loud, but it lands like thunder. Heads turn, people laugh, and someone, somewhere, thinks, how did I not see that coming? It's that contrast that hooks people, because you expect the Capricorn to be all business, all calm and composed, and they are. But then comes this flash of dry, whip-smart commentary that completely catches you off guard. It's like finding out the straight-laced professor has a wicked sense of humor, or that your stoic coworker has perfect comedic timing when the moment calls for it. Capricorns don't use their wit to perform. It's not for applause, it's for precision. They speak when they have something to say, and when they decide to be funny, it's usually exactly what the situation needs. That makes their words stick. People listen harder, remember longer, and pay more attention next time they open their mouth. This also adds another layer to their presence, because now they're not just the confident, mysterious, well-dressed, emotionally grounded person in the room, they're also the sharp one, the one who can slice through awkward tension with a single sentence, the one who notices what others miss, the one who doesn't say much, but when they do, people feel it. There's also something a little dangerous about Capricorn wit. Not cruel, but cutting. They don't come for you unless you give them a reason. But if you do, you might get roasted, silently, smoothly, with style, and it'll probably be accurate, which is why people learn pretty quickly. Don't underestimate a Capricorn, ever. But that kind of intelligence, strategic, observant, and quick, does more than just fuel their sense of humor. It bleeds into everything they do. Which brings us to reason, number 8. Capricorns don't follow trends. They set the standard. Let's get this straight. Capricorns are not trying to keep up. They're not chasing popularity, approval, or attention. They have their own internal compass, their own bar, and it's high. What others accept as good enough, Capricorn sees as a starting point. In work, relationships, appearance, goals, whatever they focus on, they aim to elevate, to perfect, to refine. That mindset turns them into silent trailblazers. They don't need to broadcast what they're doing because people will notice the results. And more often than not, people will quietly start imitating. Maybe it's the way they organize a team, or how they manage their time, or how they carry themselves in a meeting. Maybe it's the boundaries they set in a relationship, or how they refuse to lower their standards just to make someone comfortable. Whatever it is, Capricorn does it first, not to prove anything, but because they expect that level from themselves, and then people start adjusting to their level. That's what setting the standard really means. It's not just about leading by example. It's about raising the bar by existing in a way that challenges the norm. And because Capricorns aren't trying to compete with anyone but their past self, their influence is authentic. It comes from within. That makes it powerful. Think of them as quiet architects. They're always refining the blueprint, whether anyone's watching or not. But eventually, people always notice. They see how Capricorn shows up, how they carry responsibility, how they achieve goals without the drama. And suddenly, they're taking notes, adopting strategies, asking questions, copying the structure. Capricorn standards also challenge people in relationships. If you're close to one, you've probably felt it. They hold you to your best, not with pressure, but with presence. You see how seriously they take their own growth, and it makes you reflect on your own. That's why being around a Capricorn doesn't just feel grounding. It often feels like a wake-up call. This influence isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it even makes people defensive, because when you're around someone who holds themselves to a high standard, you're forced to look at your own patterns, your own habits, your own goals, and that can be confronting. But the people who are ready to grow, they stay, they learn, and they level up. Capricorn doesn't expect perfection, but they expect effort. That's what sets them apart. They respect hard work, consistency, follow-through. They admire people who show up even when it's tough. And because they live by that standard, they naturally attract others who want to rise with them, or they intimidate those who can't. Either way, they get attention, not because they ask for it, but because they become the measure. And let's not forget, they rarely brag about it. Capricorns don't need applause to know they're doing well. They've already decided what success means to them. That internal clarity gives them a glow of confidence that doesn't need to shout. It just is. So when you put reason number 7, that razor-sharp wit, together with reason number 8, their ability to raise the bar just by being themselves, you begin to see the depth of Capricorn's influence. It's not just about who they are, it's about what they activate in others. But there's more. Because while Capricorns lead, inspire, challenge, and charm, there's something underneath all of that, something more primal, something people crave even if they don't realize it. It's the sense of stability Capricorns bring into every space they enter. We've already explored how Capricorns captivate through their grounded confidence, quiet mystery, relentless ambition, natural leadership, thoughtful style, emotional control, razor-sharp wit, and their role as silent standard setters. But if you've ever had a Capricorn in your life, whether as a friend, a co-worker, a mentor, or a partner, you know there's something even deeper that pulls people toward them. And that brings us to reason number 9. Capricorns radiate reliability, and people crave it more than they realize. In a world full of flakiness, chaos, and people constantly changing their mind or ghosting without warning, Capricorn is the anchor. When they say they'll do something, they do it. When they make a plan, they show up. When they commit, it means something. That kind of steadiness isn't just rare, it's needed. People feel it, and they gravitate toward it like a safe harbor in a storm. There's something calming about knowing someone will follow through, that you can trust their word, that they won't vanish at the first sign of discomfort. Capricorns have this quiet durability, like you can lean on them and they won't buckle, and they don't have to talk about it or promise it. You just know. And let's be honest, most people don't even realize how badly they crave that kind of presence until they experience it. It might start small. Maybe a Capricorn consistently checks in, or remembers little things, or shows up on time every time without making a big deal out of it. You might brush it off at first, but over time, those little things add up. They make you feel safe, seen, held. And because Capricorns are so reliable with themselves, with their goals, their routines, their growth, they naturally extend that energy outward. It becomes part of their identity. They don't flinch in the face of responsibility. In fact, they often take it on even when it's not asked of them, simply because they want things done right. This is the kind of person you call in a crisis, not the one who's going to make it about themselves or add drama. The one who calmly says, "All right, here's what we're going to do." The one who helps you breathe again. And yes, this makes them attractive, not just romantically, but energetically. Because when someone's presence feels stable, people notice. People want to be around it. Even people who seem more chaotic or free-spirited often find themselves drawn to the Capricorn, who helps them feel centered. But Capricorn's reliability isn't about being a doormat. They have limits, they have boundaries, and they know when to say no. But even that is part of what makes them so compelling. They're consistent. You don't have to guess where you stand. You don't have to decode mixed signals. Capricorn doesn't play games with time or energy. That reliability becomes a form of emotional security. It tells people, I'm here, I'm solid, I'm not perfect, but I'm not going anywhere. And in today's world, that's rare enough to stop people in their tracks. Still, there's another layer to this, something just beneath the surface of their steadiness. Because while Capricorns may look calm and unshaken on the outside, underneath that is a mind always at work. That brings us to reason number 10. Capricorn's quiet moves are powerful. They don't just act, they strategize. Here's something you learn quickly about Capricorns. They're not impulsive. They're not the ones making snap decisions or jumping into things without thinking. Every move they make has a reason. Even when they seem spontaneous, there's usually a blueprint behind it. Capricorns are always calculating, not in a manipulative way, but in a measured, thoughtful way. They see the game 5 steps ahead. They observe, they listen, they gather data, they take their time, and then when they move, it's precise, sharp, almost surgical. People often mistake this silence for passivity, but that's a mistake, because while others are making noise, Capricorn is building momentum, quietly, relentlessly, and when they finally reveal what they've been working on, it's polished, complete, impressive. This strategic strength makes them incredibly hard to compete with, because you don't always see them coming. They're not out here hyping themselves up every day. They're just doing the work, moving the chess pieces, adjusting the board, and by the time the world notices, they've already secured the win. This same mindset shows up in how they handle people too. Capricorns are excellent judges of character. They won't let just anyone into their inner world. They take their time, test boundaries, read your patterns. They'll see things about you you haven't even admitted to yourself, and they'll store that information quietly, using it when needed with precision. In leadership, this makes them formidable. They don't just lead with authority, they lead with strategy. They can see not just what's happening now, but what's about to happen. They manage risk like it's second nature, and they're not afraid of slow progress as long as the direction is right. That kind of intentionality doesn't just impress people, it inspires them. It makes people think differently, plan better, move smarter. Capricorn's strategy becomes contagious. It shifts the energy of every room they're in, whether people realize it or not. So when you combine reason number 9, that deep, calming reliability, with reason number 10, their sharp, strategic strength, you start to understand something critical about Capricorns. They don't just show up strong, they show up prepared. They don't just handle pressure, they manage it. They don't need control to feel powerful. They create power by being grounded, consistent, and smart. And while all of this earns them deep respect, admiration, and attention, the most captivating part may be what happens when they're not even looking for attention at all. We've now walked through 10 powerful reasons why Capricorns command attention wherever they go. Each one is distinct, but they all form a pattern. Capricorns don't demand the spotlight, they attract it. Their grounded confidence, emotional control, leadership, strategic moves, they're not acts, they're instincts, natural, built from within. But if we're really going to understand the magnetism of this earth sign, we need to look at the quiet magic they carry, the kind that can't be staged or learned. And that brings us to reason number 11. Capricorn's charm is timeless, not trendy, not performative, not the type of charisma that burns hot and fades fast. Capricorn charm is the kind that lingers, the kind that stays in your memory not because they tried to impress you, but because you couldn't stop thinking about them after they left the room. This isn't the type of charm that dances for applause. It's the kind that grows on you over time. You notice it in how they move, how they speak, how they seem to know themselves in a world where most people are still figuring it out. That self-possession, it's rare, and people feel it on a soul level, even if they can't put it into words. There's also something elegant about Capricorns, whether in their gestures, their words, or just their gaze. Even the ones who dress simply or live quietly still give off this air of refinement. Their energy feels curated, intentional. You can feel the weight of their experiences in the way they hold space. They don't talk just to fill silence. They talk when it matters, and they listen more than most. Their timelessness is partly because they don't follow what's hot. Capricorns don't mold themselves to fit every new cultural wave. They build their own identity over time, based on values, legacy, and longevity. They're not swept away by every new thing. They study it, they test it, they decide what matters, and what doesn't pass their internal test gets left behind. This approach to life, selective, intentional, stable, makes them stand out in a world addicted to reinvention. Because when everything's changing all the time, people crave someone who knows who they are, who's solid, who's real. That's the core of Capricorn's charm. It's authentic, it's enduring, it doesn't expire. And here's the beautiful part. It doesn't fade with age. If anything, Capricorn energy only gets more powerful over time. Because they age into themselves. They get sharper, more centered, more magnetic. They're the kind of people who might not have been the loudest in their youth, but who become iconic later in life. The kind of people who walk into a room at 40, 50, or 60 and turn heads without even trying. Which brings us to the 12th and final reason, and perhaps the most poetic of them all. Reason number 12. Capricorns don't chase attention, it chases them. This is the paradox that defines Capricorn energy. While many signs enjoy the spotlight or even need it, Capricorns often avoid it. They're not interested in being seen for the sake of being seen. They want to be understood, respected, remembered for something real. They're not putting themselves on display, hoping to be liked. They're busy building things, real things, businesses, careers, families, inner peace, legacies. Their attention is turned inward and forward, not outward. And that's exactly why people look their way. Because energy doesn't lie. And you can always tell the difference between someone who needs attention and someone who's just focused on what actually matters to them. That focus, that groundedness, it draws people in. People are pulled toward Capricorn energy like it's gravity. They may not be trying to impress you, but you find yourself impressed anyway. They're not trying to flirt, but their focus makes them magnetic. They're not trying to dominate the conversation. But when they speak, everyone listens. Capricorns aren't interested in fame for fame's sake. They're interested in impact. And because they aren't seeking validation constantly, their energy feels different, cleaner, calmer, more real. That's why people trust them, follow them, admire them quietly, even from a distance. And what makes this even more fascinating is how unaware many Capricorns are of the effect they have on others. They often don't know just how magnetic they really are, because they're not watching themselves in the mirror. They're watching the mission, the goal, the purpose. They don't have time for self-obsession. They've got work to do. That's the magic. It's not a performance. It's not crafted to go viral. It's not curated to be liked by everyone. It's just who they are. And that's what people crave the most. Something real in a world full of filters, noise, and superficial charm. So when a Capricorn walks into a space and doesn't care about being the center of attention, that very indifference makes people pay more attention. When they speak without trying to dominate, people lean in closer. When they succeed without flaunting it, others are left wondering, how did they do that? And when they love, when they lead, when they stay, they do it with a depth that makes people feel safe, seen, and deeply valued. That kind of energy doesn't need to ask for attention. It simply receives it. So here we are, 12 reasons why Capricorns seem to draw eyes, ears, and admiration wherever they go. From the way they walk and speak, to the way they think and lead. From the quiet moments to the long game wins. From their calm energy to their sharp wit. Every part of who they are draws the world in. But that's not the end of this journey. Because what matters most now is you, your story, your connection, your voice. So now that we've taken this journey through all 12 reasons, let's pause for a moment and really let it sink in. We've seen that Capricorns don't walk into a room shouting for attention. They don't need to. They walk in with intention, presence, and purpose. And that alone shifts the energy around them. Reason number 1, their grounded confidence. Number 2, the mystery that keeps people curious. Number 3, ambition so clear it radiates without a word. Number 4, leadership that doesn't scream, it simply leads. And then came the elegance behind it all. Number 5, their purposeful style. Number 6, the emotional control that makes them the anchor in any storm. 7, their wit, razor sharp, perfectly timed and unforgettable. 8, the way they set standards just by being themselves. Not chasing trends, not following the crowd, leading quietly and being followed anyway. Number 9 showed us their reliability, the kind that makes people exhale because they know they've finally found someone who will actually show up. Then number 10, their strategic strength. Capricorns don't just move, they calculate, they plan. And when they finally act, they do it with power. And just when you thought that was it, we ended on 2 truths that define everything. Number 11, their timeless charm, not for show, not for attention, but rooted in who they are. And finally, number 12, the paradox that says it all. Capricorns don't chase attention. Attention chases them. But this isn't just a checklist of personality traits. This is a real-life pattern, a dynamic energy. You've probably seen it in a Capricorn, you know, or maybe in yourself. You might be that grounded friend who everyone turns to, the one who works hard in silence while others seek applause, the one with the plan, the discipline, the depth. Or maybe you've just now realized why a certain person always had your respect, why you never could stop thinking about them, even though they never tried to be flashy. That's the Capricorn effect. It's quiet, but it's loud in all the ways that matter. And if this video spoke to you, if even just one part made you say, yes, that's so true, or wow, I never saw it that way before, then don't just let it pass by. Take a second right now to hit the subscribe button here on Secret of the Zodiac. This channel exists for you, for the thinkers, the feelers, the seekers, for anyone who wants to go deeper into astrology and uncover the truth behind the signs, not just the stereotypes. There's more where this came from, more videos, more insights, more deep dives into the signs that shape our lives and how those signs shape us. And yes, we post daily, so your zodiac journey doesn't have to pause. You can grow with us every single day. So here's what we'd love from you now. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It takes 1 second, but it makes a massive difference. Like this video if you felt seen, validated, or inspired. Comment below. Tell us what was the most Capricorn trait you've ever seen in yourself or someone else. Was it the ambition, the mystery, the quiet confidence? Be real, be bold. Let's fill the comments with real stories, real voices, your voice. We want this section to be alive with energy, so others scrolling through feel that same connection. And if you feel called to support this work in a deeper way, if you've ever thought, wow, I really get something valuable from this content, then please consider hitting the super thanks button. It's that little heart icon with the $sign under the video. Just 1 click and you can send a tip directly to the channel. Whether it's a little or a lot, every single contribution helps us keep going, helps us handle production costs, research time, editing, and everything else that goes into making daily, meaningful, high-quality Zodiac content. We're a small team. We pour everything into this, and your support helps us keep showing up every day with more depth, more insight, and more truth. If just a handful of people who watched this video clicked on super thanks, even just once, it would make an incredible difference in helping us continue this work full time, and with even more love and consistency. So, subscribe, like, comment, and if you're in a position to support, send us super thanks. Let's build a real community here, one that's built on respect, honesty, and the shared love for what astrology can teach us about ourselves and each other. Capricorns might not need attention, but they deserve it. And maybe now we understand why. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, drop your thoughts below and let's keep the conversation alive.